Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, how has your Saturday been? We were supposed to have gotten hit by a massive flare today. They expected it. They expected it to hit the top of the planet up by Alaska, and that's where the magnetosphere has been weakening lately. They expected it to hit the ions in the upper atmosphere and supercharge the particles and give us a beautiful light show. The aurora borealis, or northern lights, was expected tonight. So I went on YouTube to look to see if anyone was seeing it, and not one person has uploaded a video. Then I went to the live cam that's in Alaska, and the sky just looks normal. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's going to hit later in the night. It's 1:40 in the morning Eastern time, where I'm at now. 1:44. As a matter of fact, it's 1:44 a.m. as I'm recording this, and not anything. As far as the Schumann resonance is concerned, we had exact perfect calm, normal 7.83, and at 12:12 it spiked right on up to 71 hertz. And that peak stayed there for a little while, or a while. And then that was it. It went back down, and it's been calm the rest of the day. The scientists reported they believe it's going to gradually increase again, a little by little, until we have another 24-hour day like before. They're anticipating it now. They think it's definitely gonna get up there. We're gonna get up there in frequency and hertz. So I don't know. I think that'd be pretty cool. As far as energy is concerned, though, oh boy, do we have it in spades tonight? All day, in fact. I woke up with the sun beaming through my window so bright, through my sun-proof window curtains. It's as if they didn't exist. The sun has gotten so strong. The energy is so intense. And I feel like it's going through my whole body, each individual cell. I just feel it. And my whole body is vibrating. I've got the tinnitus pretty bad. What are you guys going through? Do you guys have this too? Pressure in the head, chakras lighting up. Boy, my crown chakra, my 8th chakra, 15 inches above my head, plus my third eye. My third eye's been active. My son thought tonight would be a great night to have almost 4 hours, I think we did, of no electricity. So we decided to just meditate, concentrate, just be quiet. So we sat in silence, and we did an electricity-free night. So almost 4 hours we lasted, and then finally it was like, let's turn on the lights. Let's turn on Mystery Science Theater 3000 and make dinner and hang out with each other. But we did that for about 3 or 4 hours. It was actually really interesting because it didn't take long before the nature spirits to come into the house, and we were surrounded by fairy folk flying all around us, and we could just see itty bitty bits of light, wispy light, just buzzing past us and then disappearing again. And as we were talking, I moved my head, and there had been one behind me healing me. And she didn't make herself invisible, apparently. And my son saw it. He's like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Do you have a fairy behind your head? And I saw her fully in her full form. She didn't hide herself from me, but then quickly she cloaked herself again. And he said it was like looking into a multifaceted diamond. She was so bright and pure and white, like white light, but with wispy energy and like a pale blue. Like, yeah, I see them in my mind's eye, my third eye. I could see them. If I close my eyes, I could see them. It's weird. But he saw her with his eyes, so that was pretty cool. I wonder if you guys do this, what will happen. We had a pretty cool day, actually, as far as nature goes. The rain came, and it was heavy rain. Heavy rain. And I mean, floods. This whole neighborhood flooded. It was really crazy. And my son's like, this is so exciting. I'm going to go out and look, see what's going on in the river. We have near our house, like half a block from our house, I would suppose, there's a wash. And on the wash, there's a bunch of trees, or eucalyptus trees. And then that drains into a river, the Milchichig River. And the wash itself looked like a river today. Usually it looks like a little creek. It's so, a creek is a small river, but a creek is a small creek. So my grandma used to say, it wasn't even hardly enough water to be called a creek. It's a crick. That's what we have. So today, though, the crick turned into a river, and the main river turned into a raging, chaotic, violent, angry sort of river. It's normally pretty fast moving, but the rainstorms have been really, really crazy here. And my son said it was so loud because there were boulders falling off the sides of the riverbanks and rolling rapidly, big, huge boulders rolling rapidly through this river. And it was so loud that he felt like it was thunder underneath his feet, underneath the ground. And it was like boom, 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 boom. Like really huge sound coming up from the river. And we're 2 blocks from the river. So it is very interesting. It's been really interesting. I've been feeling the energy of all of nature is in a state of chaotic yet controlled movement. A lot of trees know it's their last physical day on Earth. They're being uprooted. They're being thrown into the river. Full trees are going down the river. I mean, it's been really chaotic today, but it's been beautiful, but it's been, strange. It was nice spending 4 hours just thinking about nature and loving nature today. My son had a feeling we should do that. So no electricity and just loving nature. And we did that. It was really nice. And, it was crazy. A lot of energy was cleared. A lot of energy. But I am holding a lot of energy. Are you guys bloated today? Do you have pressure in your head or tinnitus, throat chakra issues, like swollen throat, swollen eyes? Man, I keep waking up. My eyes are swollen. Looks like I've been crying in my sleep all night. It's just the swelling, and the tissues are swelling. All of my legs, the tissues in my legs are swelling. Everything is swelling. And it's with, because of the energy, we hold more water weight when we are trying to hold more light inside our bodies as we're changing and growing into our crystalline form. Lots of sleeping. Had a lot of sleeping attacks today. What about you guys? Have you been sleeping today? My son, who isn't normally affected to the extent that I am, was feeling a ton of energy too. And he was like, Mom, I don't know what it is, but I have just been like really sleepy. And he fell asleep on the couch. He doesn't normally do that. I fell asleep on the couch. I think we both fell asleep. And we just, 4 times a day, I was perfectly normal. And then just in a matter of like 1 to 2 minutes, just absolutely so exhausted that I just fell fast asleep. A couple times I was sitting up. Woke up while I was asleep, but I woke up and I was still sitting up. Just really intense, deep 20, 30-minute naps. Power naps. Cat naps. Very, very strange. A lot of people are still reporting aches and pains. A lot of people are still reporting massive headaches. A lot of the pain comes from resistance, but also because our DNA is changing. So keep drinking water. Again, try magnesium, CBD oil. Go see a naturopath if it gets real bad. I don't know. White willow bark in place of aspirin. That's where aspirin originates from. So if you go to the health food store, you could grab some white willow bark. If the pain gets real bad, they'll take out inflammation. At least the inflammation that causes the pain. If you have extra water weight, for that, let's see. We had some mint tea that seemed to do it tonight, but normal Lipton tea or just black tea also works if you need to whisk away a lot of water. But sit with it for a while. I've been doing that. I've been sitting with it, just being okay and accepting it, because I'm holding so much energy right now in my body that I can't. If I whisk away the water, it could fry my nervous system out. That's what I feel like. I feel like the water is there to protect me right now. So, I don't know. It's a feeling I hadn't had before about it. So, I don't know. Today was a day of more simple foods. I had a couple bites of the food I'd bought yesterday, but overall, for dinner, I had a bowl of rice. Just plain white rice with a little bit of Himalayan rose salt on it, the pink crystal salt. And that was it. Seriously. This was just a different kind of day, kind of more of a slower day, a very definite stormy day. And in the Northern Hemisphere's anticipation of the Northern Lights didn't come, that might have been a disappointment for some. But hopefully you'll hit, and hopefully tomorrow you'll see it. It still might hit yet in the next 3 to 4 hours. Who knows? I don't know about radio, disturbances. I didn't check for that. So we'll see. But today is Saturday, and as you know, Saturdays tend to be Grandma Marion story days. Today is no different. I do have a Grandma Marion story that she told me, a couple stories, I guess, or at least more about the stories of, or what she did. You'll see what I mean in a few minutes and after these messages. Hey you, have you ever thought about having your own podcast like me? Was it even a New Year's resolution? For me, it sure was. But as I've been looking into this for months, I was daunted. There's so many questions I had. When I was trying to get this off the ground, I was wondering, how do I record the episode? How do I get it across all the platforms? How do I get my podcast on Apple Podcasts when I don't even have an iPhone? How do I get it onto Spotify and all the other places? How do I get people to listen? And how do I make money from my podcast? How do I edit it? Oh my God, I had all these questions and I was so confused until I discovered the simple answer is Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and it is ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. All you need to do is record it. You don't have to go out and look for people to advertise on your show. They help you. So basically what I like about podcasting is I don't have to have a video of myself. You don't know if my hair is dirty or if I'm still in my pajamas or even if I'm wearing makeup. Haha. And it's so easy. I could do this from the comfort of my own home in my living room using this amazing app right from my cell phone. So easy, right? So if you've always wanted to start your own podcast and make money, by the way, doing it, please go to anchor.fm/start. That is anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters that are already using Anchor. Again, that's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast, and I can't wait to favorite you. Woohoo! Let's be broadcast podcast buddies. I'll see you there. All right, guys. Well, we're going to talk tonight about Bardo. Grandma Marion, as you recall from every Saturday for the past 2 months, I've been telling you stories about her. Reverend Marion Jones was a close friend of my husband's family. And when I met her, after I got to know her, I realized she was somebody that I had had dreams about since I was a baby. But it were past life dreams, past life memories of her. She and I had a really intense past life together, which I talked about a few weeks ago, in which we knew Jesus, Brother Yeshua, and we traveled to Egypt to spread his message of love and light. We were women doing that, and the Egyptian men just weren't having any of it, and they murdered us in a pretty horrible way using snakes. And yeah, it was just a pretty crazy time. But she and I had been together in other lives, and our souls recognized each other when we met. And we're very similar in a lot of ways, and very different in a lot of ways. And she was a very, very fascinating woman. I think she was a saint, if not a master. She was extremely aware and very telepathic, very, very psychic. She grew up in the hills of West Virginia. People called her the White Witch, even from the time she was a very small child, because she helped people with her gifts. And when she prayed for something, she would get it. God granted her wishes pretty quick. And usually her prayers were for other people. So it should come as actually no surprise at all that when I was at her house one day, she said to me in the morning, she says, "Oh boy, I am exhausted." And we're like, "Well, you just woke up, but, do you want to go back to bed?" She's like, "Oh, I'll be fine, child. I'll be fine." She was in her 80s, and she said, I was working for God all night. And she says, from time to time, I do that when I go to sleep. I ask to, work. I want to work for the divine, the one will. I'm like, oh, wow. And I had always thought about the idea of serving God in everything you do. Obviously, everyone has heard about that, thought about it, read about it, whatever. But it was the first time I'd ever heard about doing it at night while you sleep. Now, even though I had had many dreams in which I'm helping people in my sleep, I had a dream one time about a man who had a little girl, and his wife died, and he lost his job because in his grief, he couldn't keep his mind on his work, and he ended up being homeless with this little girl. And in my dream, and it felt so real, and I woke up going, I don't even know this guy. That was the weirdest thing ever. But I told him all of the resources available to him and his little girl, things he hadn't known about. And I gave him all this information that in my dream randomly I had the knowledge of. And I told him all the companies or places to call and way to get like free housing and free food because they were homeless in his car, and ways that they would take care of them. And it was like in a city I'd never been to. It was in a place that in my dream I knew it very well. It was a very weird dream. So I'd had stuff like this happen many times where I'm helping people and I wake up and I'm like, I've never been to that city. I had a dream I was in Texas once in a city I've never been to, helping people. And it's just so I wasn't really sure if I was actually helping people or if I'm having random dreams. But when Grandma Marion said this to me, I have this thing that I do sometimes, and I try not to do it like the night before. I have like a ladies' luncheon at the church, or the days before church I don't do it, but maybe on a Sunday night I'll do it. And she says, I try to do it every week, several times a week though. There's a lot of spiritual work needs to be done. And because of that, I ask God every night, how may I serve thee? How may I be of service to thee tonight, God? Use me and use me as you will tonight. I will do anything you need me to do. What task do you wish me to perform? And God would set Marion out on various tasks. And like I told you what had happened to me with the man and the little girl, she would go off on tasks sometimes like that. Sometimes they were just counseling, and I'd done that too. I mean, I counseled Tom Selleck once when he had a fight with his wife he was dearly in love with. He was upset. He was beside himself. He'd never had a fight with her before. They'd been married for a long, long time. And the fight was over something really dumb, like taxes or something, And he's like, I have such a great relationship with her. I'm so in love with her, but I don't know what's happening. And they're, it was just, they ended up being okay, As far as I know, I didn't hear of anything. But I don't know if it's a real dream or not, but I've had dreams where I'm counseling people too. But what she told me this day, after she said, oh yeah, I counsel people and I talk to people, and sometimes I go and give healing energy to people. If someone's sick in her family, she would go and her spirit would hover over their body and she would just beam white light at them. That's like a normal thing, right? But what she told me next really sparked me. So a lot of things she said did sparked my mind, my imagination, got me thinking in a different direction, in a more, I would say, upward trajectory type of direction. So she told me that she started taking people over across to Bardo. I had never heard that term before. I'm like, what? You're taking people to Bardo? She's like, I'm like, what do you mean you take people to Bardo? She says, well, when people pass away, when they die, they leave their physical body, they don't always automatically go to the light. Sometimes they get scared. Sometimes they're not aware that they're dead. And sometimes I have to inform them. I'm like, oh, whoa. That would account for the fact that there's so many stuck spirits in the world, ghosts. No wonder. That makes so much sense, right? So she said, no, I take people over to Bardo quite often. And sometimes it's just, people are in shock. Like if they're in an accident and they're in shock and they will not really know what to do, and they kind of freak out and they see a light, but they don't know if they should go for it or not. Some people think it's like a UFO, or they get kind of scared. They get confused. Is there, especially if they're shocked out of their body, like if they're hit by a truck or they're, they die suddenly and they didn't expect to die. People that are laying in a hospital dying for a long time, they know what's happening. They expect it, but people that are like, boom, dead out of nowhere, sometimes they get so shocked that they can't really register what happened. Their soul is in a state of shock, and they don't really see an angel, or they don't see the light, or they do, but they don't believe it's true. And then the light disappears after a while. Now they're like, oh man, now they're stuck. And then, a lot of times those spirits will come now to someone like me. I'm now a psychic medium and I can help people cross over. But I didn't know anything about it when she told me this. I mean, she was instrumental in many ways in the direction in which my life took, spiritually speaking. I'm now like way more seasoned than I was almost 20 years ago when she told me this story. She said that she just goes around and rescues souls at night. People who died quickly and they don't know what's going on. And God sends her to various people. So in her astral body, she just travels to wherever God sends her. She asks to help. She goes to sleep. And sometimes she remembers it and sometimes she doesn't. But she says that she takes them and she guides them and holds their hand or puts her arm around them and guides them gently into the light and literally takes them across the threshold into the next realm. And she said, you have to get training. You have to go through stages of this before you can do what I do. I've been doing it for years. And she had started in the 70s doing this when she got the idea of, oh yeah, maybe I should help God at night. And so I said, well, what's going to happen when you're no longer here to help? She said, well, there's other souls that take spirits across to Bardo, and some people don't even know they're doing it. I'm like, well, what if I wanted to work with you? I want to do this too. I want to work with you, and I want to take people across to Bardo. She said, well, in the beginning, you're going to have to go through, the beginning part of it. So I'm like, okay. She said, you're not going to be able to cross all the way to Bardo. You have to know the way back. So at first, she said, you'll just gently inform people, Hey, buddy, guess what? You died. Great. I get to be the bearer of bad news or good news or weird news. Definitely weird news to get. When you're a soul and you don't know what's going on, that's a very strange thing. So she said, I'll help you. She said, I'll come and get you at night and I'll take you. I'll take you to help. I'll teach you what to do. So not long later, I was in California. I was pregnant with my second child, and we had our house tented. We had wood-boring beetles. I mentioned that a few weeks ago. These crazy psychedelic beetles everywhere were suddenly all over our house. They were Christmas colors, green and red, and psychedelic and metallic. They looked like they were metal. And they were really, really a menace, but really, really beautiful. And they would eat their way out of our house. Apparently, our whole house had been built with infected trees. And the guy had our house built, and then after 10 years, he left. Well, what we found out later is he must have known. It's very obvious if you buy this kind of wood, and it takes 20 years for them to eat their way out of your house. Like, what a bastard, He bought the cheap, infested wood, lived there for 10 years, and then made a fortune on our house when we bought it. Ah, man, what a jerk. So $18,000 later, I don't think it's that much. I think it was like $6,000 or $8,000 low. It was like $8,000, I think. $8,000 we had to pay for them to put one of them, oh joy, fun circus looking tents over our house and tent our house and fill it with gas for 3 days to kill all of the bugs in the house. And it killed all the beetles. And it was very specific kind of poison. It was like nuts. Like, oh God. So we went to the campground and we went camping for 3 days. So the first night, I went to bed thinking, I'm going to do what Grandma Marion did. So I made a mental telepathy contact with her, and I said, Grandma Marion, I'd like to work with you tonight. And then I prayed to God, and I said, please, God, allow me to be of service to you tonight. Help me to help you. Teach me to, help you at night. I want to do what Grandma Marion has been doing. So I want to work with her. And boy, did I get my wish that night. Grandma Marion brought me to a room, and she said, tonight we're going to do this with the green room. I'm like, oh. And it was literally a green room. It was a very pale, calm kind of green, like kind of between a mint and a sage green, literally a green room. And in that green room were a bunch of soldiers, and they were Afghanistanis. They were sitting around on benches and in chairs. And Grandma Marion said, okay, what I need you to do is tell everybody here they just died in the war. Their souls are in shock. They're not aware that they're dead. She says, I'm going to be working, taking each soul individually across over to Bardo. What I need you to do is to inform everybody so they can be prepared for when I come back. And so she took one soldier and disappeared out of a door. And I couldn't really see what was on the other side of the door, but it was black. And it looked like a tunnel. And it looked like there might have been stars in the tunnel. And it was just like a quick, like, oh crap, she just stepped off into the universe. And I'm stuck in a room full of soldiers who don't know they're dead. So the door shuts, and I was wearing like a, in my dream, I obviously didn't go to bed like this, but in my dream, or in my astral body, I was wearing like a, I don't know, I can only describe it like, it looked kind of like a army uniform that a female would wear in like 1946. It was that kind of a strange, it was like a very weird, disjointed sort of, I mean, I don't know if that's what I was really wearing, but that was my own perception of what I was wearing. So I just felt real strange. I'm like, whoa, so these people have to see me in a certain way, I guess. So I'm like, okay, everybody listen up. I have some news for you. And they all looked at me and they're like, how can we understand you? I'm like, what? They're like, are you speaking English? I'm like, I don't know. And then I realized, how can they understand me and how can I understand them? I don't think we were all speaking English or I don't know what Afghanistan people speak. Afghani? I don't know. I don't think they speak Arabic. I don't know what language that is actually over there. I'm just going to say Afghani because I don't know. So that was like the first clue that this is real strange, you know, like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm speaking right now, but I do have to speak with you guys. I have to tell you something. I made sure that everyone was paying attention. There was about 35, I would say. 35, you know, just under 40 people in the room. And it had been like a skirmish or something the night before with the American side and whoever else was fighting with the Americans. But I was there with the people from the Afghani soldier side. And I told them, I said, okay, you guys, you all died in the past night. You've all died in the past few hours. And they were like, what? And they were just like, some of the guys are like, oh man, I knew it. I had a suspicion. Oh man, you know, just, I'm too young to die. What? And some of the older guys are like, thank God, I'm tired of fighting. I don't like the war. This one guy jumps up out of his seat and he comes racing over to me. And he goes, but you don't understand. I can't die. He says, I'm going to be married. I am to be married. I have never even had sex yet. I wanted to be married. I was in love. I can't die. You've got to send me back. And I just looked at him and I said, you know, I can't send you back. I'm sorry, honey, you've died. You've got to go on now to the light. We have to go. You have to go. Wait for Marion to come back and she's going to take you. She'll take you. She knows the way. It's a different way than, you know, you guys didn't go when you saw the white light. Now you've got to wait. Got to go with her now. That's the plan right now. And he said, but I can't die. He's like, I can't die a virgin. This is terrible. Like, I know, it is terrible. He's like, I did everything right by my God, by my religion, but now I'm fighting for my people, and then now I'm dead. I'm like, yeah, and he just had the shock, like, oh man. And he's like, well, what about you? You're here. We're here right now. Can we get married right now? You're a pretty lady, And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I can't. First of all, I'm only here to work. And he's like, wait a minute, how do you work here? I'm like, well, I work for God. I'm doing a job for God. And, this is just today is my task is to help everybody here. And he's like, oh man. All right. Well, this is weird. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, who's that other lady? And I'm like, well, she's my friend. And I'm kind of like her apprentice. I'm her death apprentice. And I'm helping people cross over. But my beginning part of this job is to help people by telling them first that they're dead. He's like, oh man, he kind of gave me like this look, like so frustrated and so mad. And that's what people go through when they're shocked, But and so basically all night long, that's all I did was I sat with people, I counseled them, I gave them love and healing. I told them it's okay. They don't have to worry. Everything's going to be fine. And everything is going to be fine. It's always, always going to be fine. After you leave this body, you're going to be fine. Everything's easier then, actually. Easier than being in the body now. But Grandma Marion would take them over to Bardo, and I think she was taking them through. She told me in the dream that she's taking people through their 3 days. And what happens right when you die is you go through the tunnel usually. You see the light, you go through to the light, and you go through a tunnel. It's kind of like a blue-gray tunnel, and then at the end there's a light. And there's going to be people that died before you, animals, people, friends, anyone you know who died, who loves you, people who you didn't see in this life, but when you're there, you know them. And you have your angels, your holy guardian angel, and they'll all take you. And then you go, and there's like when you have a near-death experience, this is what happened to me, is there's like a big pool or like a fountain, and there's water on, in the fountain, and you look, and it's very still, very clear water. You look into the water, and you see in the reflection of the water everything you just went through. Your whole life flashes before you, literally, in the water, in the fountain, and you get to live all the memories you had from this life. It's almost like a download or upload to the system. You get to see it from your perspective, and then you go back and you see it from everyone else's perspective, how you affected others. And then usually you decide to come back, and then that's the end of the near-death experience. But when you're having a death experience, this process is a little bit more detailed, and it takes 3 days Earth time each. And then at the end of that, a lot of times people will opt to go into the room where you go and heal for a while, or in my mom's case, for years, when you had a particularly hard life health-wise or emotional or spirit-wise. And so, but that's it. So it was pretty interesting. I mean, I told Grandma Mary, and I'm like, I called her and I said, after my house tent was over, and I called her and I go, I helped you with the Afghanistan soldiers. And she didn't remember it. She's like, usually I don't remember what happened. I'll just go and I'll work. And then I come home and I wake up within an hour of coming home and entering my body again. And I don't remember what happened. I'm exhausted, and I know I worked for God. And I always feel good emotionally, uplifted spiritually, but a little bit physically exhausted, because it is actual work. And, and so if I go to sleep for 12 hours, sometimes 8 of those hours I'm working. And I'm doing it because of Grandma Marion. But this one day she told me, that she had been working all night. She'd been helping people cross over to Bardo. And she had told me about someone who died, and their spiritual beliefs, their religion told them that they're supposed to remain in their graves until the trumpets blow and the people will be taken up out of their graves by Jesus. And she's like, oh my God, for Pete's sake. Are you kidding me? So she had to go literally into the ground, into this person's casket, where their spirit was laying on top of their now decaying body, and convince them that that was an erroneous and false belief. She said there's nothing wrong with being a Christian. There's a lot of different kinds of Christianity. And, I work directly for God, and you got to get out of your freaking grave. You're going to be sitting here forever. Go to heaven. Go see Jesus right now. Go talk to him. If he tells you go back to earth and get under the ground and get in your grave and lay in your casket, then you can go do that. I'll take you to him right this minute. And the person would not leave. And she said it was the darndest thing. She had to stand. She said, because she's in her astral body, you could go through solid objects. It's really weird, right? And she said she was standing inside this guy's casket and grabbing onto this guy's hands and pulling him with all of her might, trying to pull him out of the casket. And he's pushing against her with all his might to stay in the casket. And she said, I've had to do this one a lot. I deal with a lot of Southern Christians, a lot of Christians that believe in this, in this erroneous idea. She's like, they are so stubborn, and their belief and their faith is so strong, which isn't a bad thing. But when it's the faith in like 90% of the right thing, but 10% of the wrong thing, it makes it really hard. And so she said all night she'd been wrestling with this guy, trying to get him the frick out of his casket. And finally she won. She's like, her spirit is stronger, but she had to have the angels come and help her. She's like, Archangel Gabriel, you got to come and help me. Archangel Michael, come and help me. Help cut this guy's cord from his body. He's still attached to his physical body. Yeah. And she's like, God, I can't. She's like, I wrestled with him for hours. I'm exhausted. This guy just wasn't getting it. And she said, I thought maybe I should almost take on the form of Jesus, but I didn't want to do that. But I didn't want to lie to the guy. But I mean, what am I going to do? But finally the angels convinced him, I guess. And he went to heaven and ended up being happy. And he's like, oh, thank you. God, you just could have saved me 1,000 years of doing nothing, laying around in a dirty old casket. It's kind of weird. So I don't know. She really sparked me with this one. And I wanted to tell you guys that you can always help God at night. You don't have to be helping the dead. You don't have to help the dead. I ended up doing it a lot. And even after she died, in fact, when she died, she came to me and she said, you are now going to be able to take people across to Bardo. You might not remember it, but it's in stages. So basically you're going to, for a while, just keep informing people that they're dead. And in time, you'll end up taking them through, and you'll end up taking them through their whole thing. At first you'll cross over with them. At first you'll tell them they're dead and send them to the light. And then after a while, and it goes in stages. And I honestly don't remember taking anybody through their stages yet. I don't think I'm there yet. I haven't done that yet, but it's exciting and it's good work. And I look forward to being able to do that. So far, while awake, I've been helping people cross over. Also, while I'm asleep, I'll help people cross over. So after she died, after Grandma Marion herself passed away, I had another one where I was standing in what looked like maybe Oklahoma or something, and this old rickety prison looking van, like it looked like a white prison van. And I don't know if they were prisoners. I don't know what happened. They looked like they had been prisoners, but they were all Native American men. And they were on a white van. And the guy who looked like he was dressed like a police officer opened the van. And all these guys had jumpsuits on, like it was prison. So I don't know what happened. If there was a prison riot, I don't know. And I never even looked into it, to be honest. And all of these people got out, these big burly dudes, all Native American. They all had long hair, long black hair. And they all got out and they looked real tough. Like, who are you? Why are you here? Why are we here? What's going on? You know? I'm like, oh, great. Oh, these guys are going to be so freaking happy, you know? And so the guys just got let out of the van, and the warden looking dude, or the, cop, prison dude, whatever, he gets back in the van and he goes, "Thank you, ma'am." And he kind of tips his hat to me. He had a hat on. He kind of tipped his hat to me. It was like police officer hat. So it was very weird. It might have been like a baseball cap. I don't know. I can't remember. The whole thing was weird and surreal. And he said, "Okay, well, I gotta go." And he gets back in the van and he takes off, and they're like, "Why is he just leaving us here? We're going to starve to death. What the hell? Why is this guy here?" I'm like, oh my God, you guys don't know this. All right. And then I realized what was going on. It was like, I wasn't sure I was doing that. But I'm like, okay, guys, guess what? I'm like, and you're all Native? And they're like, yeah. And I go, I'm going to give you, to the best of my ability, the things that I need to tell you. And they're like, what? I'm like, well, I regret to inform you, and also I happily inform you, that you all have passed away. And they're like, what do you mean we've passed away? We're standing right here. What kind of game you playing at, lady? You know? I'm like, you guys have all died. And that was your freedom van, basically. And I want you to look out over this way. And I pointed, and when I pointed, there was this forest. Some of the trees were white birch trees. I think there were some, like, maybe some evergreen trees, but I don't remember. But it was like a dead looking forest, and the ground was frozen. It was cold. And it was in the wintertime when this happened, so it looked like how it would have looked normally. Frozen ground, slight frost. The grass was yellow. And I'm like, so this is your way to your happy hunting ground. You're free men now. You've paid your dues to men and to society and to God. If you were here to pay dues to God, you've done it. You're free. You're going to heaven. This is it. And this is your way. And I wasn't allowed to go with them. So I just kind of waved my arm, and when I waved my hand over to gesture, over there's your heaven. And they started going, woohoo, so happy. And they were like, all right. Oh, thank God we're free. We're finally free. And they started running as fast as they could. And they disappeared one by one into this bright white light, which is on the other side of the woods. One by one by one. And then eventually, one guy kind of hugged me goodbye, had tears in his eyes. He took off. He's, oh, thanks, lady. You're the best. Oh, God, freedom. And he took off and he just ran. And as they ran, the ones that had been overweight and walking a little slow because they were in pain, they started to lose weight, and their bodies became younger, and they started to straighten up as they ran. And they became as real young men, young, brave warrior men, and their jumpsuits that they had been wearing disappeared, and they all took on the appearance of what a brave, strong Native American warrior would have been a couple hundred years ago, before prisons existed. Some of them wore like loincloths, some of them wore like deerskin pants with a fringe on the side. Some had the ribbon shirts. Whatever native tribe they came from, they adopted that form of dress and took off running. It was a really beautiful thing to see. So I don't know what happened. I don't know why there were so many Native Americans that died at once. I don't know if they were all from the same prison, but they had been prisoners on Earth, and then they all died in prison. And it might have been from one prison. It might have been from 20 or 30 prisons. I don't know. But it was another group of people in a van, like 20 people. So I thought that was interesting that as Grandma Marion progressed, she was taking individuals over and then working with them for 3 days and then coming back. And then you could go to heaven and then come back to the same time frame, because time is different. It's different in different dimensions. So she did all that. But when I did it, I'm just telling groups of people they're dead. I don't know why, but I don't remember. I don't know if I'm working this now. I think I might be, but I don't remember it. Sometimes I just wake up exhausted now. But I mean, last night, I know I had dreams about people I don't know when I'm awake. This past week, several times I've woken up going, wow, I want to get back to those people. I was helping them. I was working with them. I was on an adventure with them. It's very strange. I don't know. So another one that I had, though, where I did not work with individuals. This was a very weird one. A young woman in her 20s had killed herself. And she was an extreme introvert and an empath, and had been heavily abused by her mom. I think her dad had abused her mom, and then he left when she was very little. So she had really crappy examples for parents. And she was all alone, and she was a gothic girl. She dressed like a goth. She wore like black makeup and black lipstick and black nail polish and black hair that she dyed. Black and purple she wore. And I think she might have been leaning towards Wiccan beliefs or pagan beliefs. And even in that, she felt alone. And she was very just empathetic, like towards all the people around her. So she didn't know how to control it yet. And she was taking in everybody's pain. And it got to be too much. And she became a drug user. And I think she killed herself with heroin, but it was an accident or it was on purpose. I'm not sure. I think it might have been a little of both. And in her mind, she had constructed her own town. And so my job as someone who's going to help her cross over into the real heaven, her construct had been made in the fourth dimension, in the astral planes. So I went into this wasteland of a city that she had created. And everything was black and it had neon edges to all the buildings, like hot pink and orange and green, and the sound of a neon sign going bzz, 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 was permeating throughout this constructed world that she had created with her mind. And I think that when she was alive, she created this world in her mind as a place to deal with all the stuff she was going through. And she would sleep at night in this world. Her astral body would travel there and she'd be there. And she was the only one in the town. Of course she is. She didn't want to be around anybody else, because to be around other people would be to feel their pain, their suffering, their sorrow, their depression. And she's always taking it in. So she would walk these streets, and it was always like the streets were wet as if it had just rained, but it never rained there. And she would sleep in various places, sometimes in different buildings, and sometimes in her cardboard, like under cardboard, like a homeless person. And a part of her felt sorry for homeless people, but she also longed to be one of them, because that would mean she would have zero responsibility and she wouldn't have to talk to anybody. So I was kind of like debriefed, I think, by an angel while I was in the astral plane, and they said, okay, look, you got to go into this world that this person constructed, and you have to be careful because she's going to run away from you. She's so scared. She doesn't realize she's dead, but she can't get out of her world, and she doesn't know why. So I had to chase her all night long through the streets of this constructed city that she made with her mind. And I had to keep looking, like, behind garbage cans and underneath cardboard boxes and in between cars and in abandoned buildings. And she was the only one there. But she had created such a huge world in the astral plane. Then it took me hours to find her. When I finally found her, she got really scared. Why are you here? Who are you? I'm like, sweetheart, I'm here because God told me to come. I work for God, and an angel of the Lord told me that you're here, that this is your world you created. She's like, well, I had to stay safe, but how did you get in? I'm like, honey, you died. You passed away, honey. You died of a drug overdose. And I'm here to offer you love, friendship, support. And she's like, no, it can't be. And she started crying. Oh, it can't be. Like, it is. You have to take my hand, and we're going to walk out of this constructed world. You don't have to live here anymore, because now you're going to heaven. You're going to be healed. You're going to be fine. And she had to show me the way out of this world. So we went back into the regular astral plane, and then she had to collapse her world that she created, the construct. And I think I might have honestly taken 2 nights to find her, 2 or 3 nights. She was hard to find. It was huge. Such an artistic mind, such an imagination. And she would put out jazz, and it'd sound like a street musician playing out in the night. Like how you'd imagine someone playing like a saxophone on a street corner for money type of music. And I would hear the music, but no other person existed there. And so she would do that to kind of set me off of her scent, take me away from her. She knew I was following her. But it took a while, and at the end I just gave her the biggest hug, and I told her I loved her, and she cried in my arms while I just stroked her hair as if she was like my sister or maybe my daughter. And I told her it's all okay. It's all over now. You could go back. Your suffering is over. You could go back to heaven. And she did, and she was so happy. in her change in her dress, like she changed into a white or cream colored dress with little brown and green flowers in her light, and she had these light shoes on and light socks, like rolled socks around her ankles, and she lightened up and her hair turned kind of an auburn color, and she literally lightened up before she left and went into the light. It was a great honor to help her. She was a really wonderful person. She just didn't see her value. No one had ever shown it to her, and she couldn't pull herself out of her suffering enough to recognize her own worth and value as a person. But I helped her, and she left her world and she went to heaven. She's probably in heaven right now. Finally happy. But I don't know, that's my Grandma Marion's story for tonight. I mean, that's it's all pretty interesting, right? I mean, really, there's a lot of work to be done, you know, a lot of work to be done. I've worked for God in many different ways. One time I went to Thailand and I watched a bomb explode. And my job was to monitor and manage the energy of the people who witnessed this tragedy. And I had to hug them and give them love. And they didn't see me or feel me. They didn't know I was there, but it was in Bangkok. It was just a bomb exploded in a town square while people were out having fun for the night on like Saturday night. And the next day it was in the paper that that bomb actually did go off. And it was, you know, pretty shattering, you know, for a lot of people. It was a big thing. And, you know, no one ever mentioned me. No one knew my spirit was there helping. But I wonder how many other people were. I think I saw it, and that was when I was very young. I was like 19 or 20. So it kind of freaked me out. I didn't at that time realize I was working for God. I just was like, oh, it was weird. I was just there and decided to help people because that sucked. But if it wasn't for Grandma Marion, though, I would not have had that in my mind that you could help people. You could serve God in your sleep, work for God in your sleep, help people. And help them cross over to Bardo. Bardo is the threshold between earth and heaven, between the living and the dead. Or the dead and the living, if you want to look at it in the reality world of it. Because in a way, we're very much asleep and very much dead while we're here in our physical bodies. And then when we go to the other side, we're like, oh, God, we're so alive. So alive and so vibrant. We're not dead over there. We're actually alive over there. It's everything is back asswards. Ass backwards? Yeah. It's through the looking glass, Alice, with you. Curiouser and curiouser this world becomes as we delve into it. But I love you guys with all my heart. Thank you for listening. I hope that wherever you are when this recording finds you and hits your ears, you're filled with the love and light of God, heavenly peace, joy, high vibrations. I know that in this moment I am here with you. I am there with you where you are. I'm hugging you with my grand energy, my big energy that God gave me. Just know that I'm always with you. You always have these recordings to listen to. As long as we have the internet. And after that, you have to go to the Akashic Records to hear me. I bet the Akashic Records got really wild after the internet was invented. That's probably a topic for another day, yeah? All right, guys, I love you with all my heart, but right now I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.